Hi and welcome to this video. I'm Peter. I build custom scale model cars and trucks and RC stuff for customers or for myself. In this video I'm going to transform this 1/18 scale DAF XF from Ixo Models to something special. It's going to be something like this. But first let's unbox it. Unfortunately, this model came with a little damage, but no problem, because we are going to change the appearance and make it more like the real truck. The truck is held in place by 4 Phillips screws, so let's take them out. And let's take a look what we are working with. The model itself is already nicely detailed. It's a diecast model with plastic parts. The cab, the doors and the chassis are all made of metal. The spoilers and things like that and the side skirts are made of plastic. It already came with a very nicely detailed interior. The only things you can open with this model are the doors. But later on in this video I'm going to change the interior also, to make it more like the truck in real life. The cab can't move forward, but there's a little play in it, just like a real truck. We are not going to change much about the underside from the truck, but it got real springs on the front and on the rear. So, let's take it apart. The cab is held in place by a couple of screws, so it's fairly easy to take the chassis off. And the inside of the cab, like the interior, is pushed together. So it's really easy to take everything apart. It got a molded engine block. So let's take the interior apart and to make the cab ready for paint. This truck I am building for Oegema Transport in Dedemsvaart, the Netherlands. It's a quite big company what does international and national transport from around the globe. The cab is very easy to take apart. Everything is pushed together, only the doors are screwed together. The only thing I had to change on the chassis later on are the color of the fuel tanks. But first let's prep everything for primer. I used some 1200 grit sanding paper. So when everything was lightly sanded, it was time for primer. I used some white primer, especially for diecast models. I put on a first light coat, and in the meanwhile, while that was drying, I was going for the underside of the truck and the side skirts. And when that was drying, it was time to make the fuel tanks silver. Just a light sanding and make it clean before I put on the silver color. I put on 3 coats of silver and after that a coat of clear. And I hand painted the fuel straps. It's already looking more like the real truck. Now it was time for the interior. I painted the interior grey. I masked off the dashboard panel and gave the dashboard a wood look. And I printed some Danish cloth. I think it turned out quite nice. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. The interior of this DAF is grey with some black accents and Danish cloth. So I printed some more. And I made a little bed. And I hand painted the seats and the floor black. And the top of the cab is going to be beige. I ordered the original Oegema colors. So let's spray paint it. First, just a light coat. And after the first coat, I put on 2 more. And after about 3 coats, I let it dry for about 24 hours. In the meanwhile, I painted the rest of the cab green also. And when I was happy with the finish, it was time to put on 3 coats of clear coat. And when you're new at my channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, put on your notifications bell and watch my whole video please. You help me a lot. It's still wet here, but we're going to let it dry for about 24 hours and in the meanwhile we're going to hand paint some parts of the underside of the cab. And I put in some side marker lights. Just a quick test fit, and in the meanwhile we're going to hand paint the engine block, even if you don't see it anymore later on. It's all about the details. I put the cab on the chassis just for a quick test fit to see how it will look. Now it was time to paint the inside from the cab black. And I made the upper cabinets beige, just like the headliner. And I put the bed back in place. Now it was time to rebuild the cab, the grille, the upper spoiler and other minor parts. And I put the interior panels back and the glass. I hand painted the window surroundings and the side steps. It's nicely coming together. Now it was time to put everything back together, like the mirrors on the doors, the side steps and the underside of the cab. I added some more detail on the front. And in the meanwhile, the mailman arrived with a RC 4-wheel drive light controller. So let's test it. I used this kit in more of my models. It's very easy to install and it got a remote with 4 channels. I drilled some holes for the lights in the side skirts and now it was time to put them back on. And I used some really small LED lights for this build. With this light kit, I can change the lights separately. There's going to be front, rear and side marker lights, interior lights, dashboard lights and some little lights on the roof of the cab. Time to solder all the wiring and make it nice and tidy. And in the meanwhile, I added some more detail for the truck cab. So when I was happy with the wiring, it was time to put the interior back in its place. And let's test the interior light. In the front lights and fog lights, I drilled a little hole to fit the LED lights in. And I made some top lights. First a little test to see if everything still works before I put everything back together. I handmade some little curtains for the side. And put the dashboard back in place. Now it was time to make the light bar on top of the cab. I used an SMD light bar and added some more detail in the interior, like a license plate with the name of the driver's girlfriend. Time to tidy up all the wires for the dashboard lights and interior lights. And of course, before we're going to put the cab back on his chassis, we have to test everything. And everything still works, so now it was time to put everything back together. But first, let's enjoy it a little bit. Every model needs some lights, I think. It's giving so much more realism. I put the interior and the seats back in its place, so now it was time to put the cab back on its chassis. For the final time, I hope. I extended the wires, so now it was time to put it back in place. All the details and plastic work is going back on. And I printed some license plates. The air hoses are going back on, just like the black parts from the rear of the cab. And I mounted the rear spoilers back in its place. And now it was time to make the top light bar. I used some electricity wires to make the surrounding. In the meanwhile, the mailman have arrived with his new display case. It was very easy to put everything together. It's a kind of big model, so we have to use a big display case. But I think it turned out great. Now it was time to put the wires on the underside of the chassis nice and tidy, so we can mount the truck on the underside of the display case. A friend of mine made the decals, so we are getting them printed and put them on the truck. And with this, the project is almost finished. I want to thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.